On the 26th of October 1863, a group of representatives from 11 different clubs met in the Freemasons' Tavern on Great Queen Street, London. The original purpose of this meeting was to finally agree on a set of rules that would apply to the game of football, but what they would go on to create is the oldest football association in the world, the FA. 154 years on, football has grown out of just the United Kingdom and has expanded into a worldwide sport. Back then, spending money on the sport just meant purchasing kits and buying balls. Now everything changed, and there are huge amounts of money being spent on players, managers, coaches, and club facilities and TV rights. There are people who are making huge amounts of money from the sport that only 100 years ago was thought of as a game people would play just to have fun. Of course, that's the way many people would tell you it is now. But is that really the truth? Many people that own clubs just purchase them as a form of investment, and they're only trying to make money from the sport. But these huge amounts of money being pumped into the sport can also bring positive things, such as better technology and high-tech equipment. In this video, I will talk about the advantages and disadvantages of economics in the world of football. The first advantage for the footballing world is TV rights. As of recent, football is being televised a lot more. This is due to the massive amounts of monies that companies are paying to have the rights to show matches from certain leagues. As of recent, there have been more and more companies buying the rights for more leagues. This allows fans to see more matches from their team's league, even if they live in a different country. Because of football being more televised, tickets to stadiums have decreased in value. This is also a big advantage for the fans, because they will not need to pay as much to experience the fun of watching a game live at the stadium. This is also a benefit to the club, because of the prices of tickets going down, there are more people willing to pay the fee. This results in a profit for the clubs. The teams are taking the money that they earn from the stadium's fees and reinvest it into things that would benefit the club. This leads into the second advantage. One of the main factors that the teams invest the money into is club facilities. This is usually youth academies. Clubs invest the money into these because if the team has a good youth facility, the younger players at the club can train with better equipment and can later become good players that can help the club's first team in the future. A prime example of this is Barcelona's La Masia. La Masia is FC Barcelona's youth academy. It has racked up a reputation for being the best youth facility in the world, producing stars like Lionel Messi, Andres Iniesta, and Xavi Hernandez. Of course, this is a big advantage for clubs, especially when the products of it are as good as Barcelona's superstars. When the players from these youth academies eventually become good enough to break into the club's first team, they usually ask for a big wage increase. This is the first disadvantage. This is because the players now feel like they're a really big part of the team. Nevertheless, they are, but being young and not very mature yet, they might ask for unrealistic amounts of money in order to be kept at the club. Of course, wanting high unrealistic wages doesn't apply to young players only. This is because, with the financial power that the clubs now have, players expect them to be able to satisfy higher wage demands. This is a very recent problem. In fact, the first player to be paid £25,000 a week was Dennis Bergkamp with his move to Arsenal in 1995. But from then, the record for the highest wage in the world has been broken a lot more frequently. In 2000, the £50,000 a week barrier was broken by Roy Keane while playing in Manchester United, which was subsequently doubled to £100,000 a week the next year by Sol Campbell, who also signed for Arsenal. This issue becomes a lot bigger when you tie wages and transfer fees together. A great example of this, and the second disadvantage, is the Chinese Super League. Chinese super clubs like Shanghai Shenhua, Shanghai SIPG, and Hebei China Fortune FC have been signing proven foreign superstars like Jackson Martinez, Carlos Tevez, and Ezequiel Lavezzi. Players are attracted to play in these Chinese Super Leagues because many of the clubs are owned by very rich businessmen who can therefore afford to pay them huge wages. As an example, a few years ago, Carlos Tevez, an Argentine striker who in his time played for Manchester United and Juventus, moved to Shanghai Shenhua and earned £615,000 a week for 2 years. That's more than £64 million. This is a major disadvantage because these players go to play in a league that gets barely any attention from the media and has a very low quality of football. This is an even bigger disadvantage to younger players like Oscar dos Santos Jr., who is currently wasting the best years of his career. He moved to China at 25 and is not looking likely to moving back to Europe. He is currently 26 and wasting his prime. Another problem, and the third disadvantage, is that the transfer fees for these players are way too high. As an example, Oscar moved for €63 million. Inflated fees for players have been a more recent issue. In fact, the main pioneer of this problem just happened this summer. Of course, I'm talking about the record-breaking transfer of Neymar da Silva Santos Jr. He moved from FC Barcelona to Paris Saint-Germain for €222 million this summer. This transfer more than doubled what had been the last transfer record fee, €105 million for Paul Pogba's switch from Juventus to Manchester United. Neymar's transfer more than doubled the fees that club asked for before selling their players. As an example, Arsenal FC were trying to buy Thomas Lemar in the summer and were not willing to pay the €45 million AS Monaco were asking for. After Neymar's transfer, Arsenal offered €45 million and Monaco asked for 90 instead, exactly double what they'd asked for before the move. Inflated transfer fees are a disadvantage for financially smaller clubs. This is because it would be hard for them to afford to pay more money. In 2010, to contrast clubs spending themselves into financial instability and to improve the overall financial health of European football, the Union of European Football Associations, or UEFA, implemented a set of rules called financial fair play. In broad terms, clubs have to have an overall profit or balance over a period of 3 years, but if clubs fail to do so and find themselves at an overall loss, they will be penalized. Punishments include temporary expulsion from European competitions such as the Champions League and the Europa League, fines, and bans from being able to buy new players. This is an advantage because it is trying to contrast clubs with a lot of money spending it all, so financially smaller clubs can try to compete. It is also trying to have clubs not go bankrupt. Many clubs like Barcelona, Real Madrid, and Atletico Madrid have had periods of time where they weren't allowed to buy any new players because they didn't follow the financial fair play rules, proving that this technique is working. This has only improved in the last few years though. This is because for the past 17 years before 2016, the president in charge of FIFA, the International Federation of Association Football, was Sepp Blatter. The Swiss, who was in charge of the association from June 1998 until December 2015, actually had a good couple of years, until controversial rumors started circling around him. These started in 2002, when Blatter's deputy, Mikael Zan-Ruffinen, drew up a 30-page dossier which outlined allegations of financial mismanagement within FIFA and presented it to the Swiss authorities. This report claimed that Blatter had been at fault for then FIFA's marketing partner ISL's losses of up to $100 million. Blatter was cleared of any wrongdoing though, and FIFA were made to pay the sum. Then again, a few years later, controversy arose again after Blatter was blamed for corruption, after FIFA awarded the 2018 and 2022 World Cups to Russia and Qatar respectively. The Swiss and American authorities started investigations about him and a lot of fellow co-workers, who were accused of having taken bribes from both countries' football associations in order for them to get more votes in the process to decide the host. At the end of this investigation, Blatter was removed from his position and banned from any official footballing activity until 2022 for corruption. Of course, there are many corrupt presidents and club owners in world football, but there are also many examples of great owners with a sixth sense for good deals that employ great managers and sign great players. Some of these have taken over financially smaller clubs and with the money that they invest, taken them to success or at least to a very good financial position. Guo Guangchang is the founder and chairman of Fosun International, a Chinese international conglomerate and investment vehicle. Fosun's business operations have included asset management, real estate, and entertainment. Fosun bought Wolverhampton Wanderers for £45 million in 2016, and the new owners have clearly influenced the results of the club. As of February, Wolverhampton Wanderers are the first in the Championship, the English second division. They are beating second-placed Aston Villa by 12 points with 15 games until the end of the season. It only took one season for the new owners to assess the situation and transform the once mid-table team into the best team in the league. Another thing that is good is that they're not even spending that much. Their highest paid transfer is £17 million. The way in which these kind of owners invest in teams and make them a lot better is the last advantage that we're going to see in this video. Overall, it is clear to see that there are always many new problems and disadvantages that are coming up with economics in the world of football. One thing that is good though, is that we have seen many examples that I presented for you, for example financial fair play, is that for every problem that is being presented, whether it's a big association in the world of football like FIFA or UEFA, a football association from a country, or a small community of fans or players of the sport, people are trying to find a solution, because football is a sport, not a business, and all it's meant to be is a game where people have fun. And as FIFA's slogan says, it's for the game, for the world. Thank you for watching.